Hello, hello, hello. Hi there. My name is Otitopo from the Grey Couch, and I'm here with my sister friends. It's Mother's Day weekend, so it's going to be a very special episode or episodes, as it were. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a bit, but I wanted to say thank you to each and every one of them for taking the time to sit with me today on the couch. Like I said, it's Mother's Day, so you can see this is all about the women. So I'm going to take it as I see everyone along on the screen. So I'm going to start with you, Maureen.
Hello, I'm Maureen Walker, as the screen says. I am a mom of two, 16 and 10. Yeah. And I'm here to learn, to share the knowledge that I have. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Let's go to the next lady, Bolanle.
Hi, everyone. Awesome to be here. I'm happy to be here and happy to be here with my, like you said, sister friends. My name is Bolanle Akinshola. I am a mom of two boys, maybe one adult boy, he's 20, and a 16-year-old. Okay. I'm also I think the three of us are physicians. I know Maureen didn't say that she's an OBGYN doc, so I'm saying it for her. And then I'm a paid emergency medicine doc.
Yes. Okay. And then finally, Dr. Shola. Since they already introduced you as a doctor, okay, so now Shola.
Exactly. That was easy. My name is Dr. Shola Ezeokoli of Balance with Dr. Shola. I am a physician, an author, a life coach, and I'm also a mom of two beautiful daughters. My first daughter is 17 and my second one is 14, going on 30. And I'm happy to be here today.
Oh my goodness. Do these people look like the mothers of 20-year-olds and 17 and 16? You know what they say, black don't crack. Here's us in all our glory. So again, forgive us, right, if we go off and start saying some things, because this is a pair sisterhood and mom conversation. So we are intending to go to all the places, right, where Nigerian women sometimes don't go, or maybe they go, I don't know, right, but we're going to go there. And general question, right, if you think about it, last week on the couch, Stanley and I had talked about the things that we learned from our mothers, right? And how it's impacted our marriage and the things we're bringing into the marriage from that. So I'm going to go around to each and every one of you and ask you, right? Since it's Mother's Day, what have you learned from your mother, and how is it impacting your marriage as far as you know? So I'll start with Maureen. I think that's how we're just going to go around, right, in a circle.
I think the thing that has impacted me most from my parents' marriage is the sacrifice. I know that there were times, or there have been times that things have been not so great between my parents, but I know that my mom always did what she could to work on things and to keep the peace and make sure that there was a stable home for us. I'm not saying that I would necessarily have agreed with her decisions or done what she did. She's in a different generation and a different time, but I know that her motivation for doing that was to create a stable home for us. I mean, it wasn't like there was, domestic violence or abuse or anything, but her motivation was always to keep a stable environment for us. And now that I'm a mom myself, I can see the importance of that and how that has helped us to turn into the people that we are today. So I think that's the thing that I would like to also take into my marriage, my motherhood. Not like killing myself and sacrificing myself so that I'm not there for the children, but actually knowing that my place in nurturing them is creating that stable environment for them to be able to thrive as God would have them do.
So I think it's important. Maureen Sola said something about the generation, the timing. So I think in answering that question, you have to put into perspective the generation that you're talking about. So our parents' generation were definitely a generation where, you just kind of suffered through everything, irrespective. It wasn't, they didn't have the choices that I would say that women or mothers have now. And so I would echo what Maureen said in terms of just sacrificial given for the sake of stability and the sake of the children, not necessarily the best decision in some instances. And so that's why I say we have to put in perspective the generation, but the motive, which is that, to just have that stability that in their mind at that time was essential for stability in their children. So for my mom, she was the epitome of gentleness and patience, and love. And so those are the things that I remember about her, and the things that, she's impacted in me, and what I, impacting, or I hope to live on in my life, my marriage, and in my children.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
My mom. Oh boy. What I learned from my mom can fill a book. But I learned from my mom to be independent and to have my own voice. Actually, I'm going to say from both my parents, they were all about, have your own money. Don't, things like, don't make it so that you're completely dependent on a partner. Have your own money. Be independent. They raised us to, I keep saying they because my father had the same sort of opinions. And honestly, I think she probably got them more from him, to be honest. But so have your own independence, have your own voice, have your own money. If anybody ever threatens you, you walk out of there and you don't go back. My mother was as feisty as all heck. I once saw her threaten somebody with a machete. So I always say things like, look, I haven't threatened anyone with people that say I'm feisty. I haven't threatened anyone with a machete yet.
We don't want machetes.
I don't even have a machete.
Yeah.
Or as we say in Nigeria, machetes. I think the word machete carries more weight than machete. So for me, someone that threatens someone with a machete, I mean, that's my example. So to be firm, to have your own voice, to set boundaries, to even though you're married, you're still a person. You're an individual person, you're not enmeshed in another person because you're married. And so, like I said, it's both of my parents that were like this. Yes.
I think what I'm hearing right from kind of everyone is this question of resilience, right? That's the thread that is coming out for me, whether it comes in as, the gentle, stability versus the almost like fight for what you want or need in a marriage, right? For all of that, it's really about pushing through, right, to kind of make the relationship that you have work. But I really appreciate that, just us coming back to say, now that we're mothers and parents ourselves, right, to kind of think back and say, wow, look at all the sacrifices that, our mothers made, right? In that sense, we're looking from a sacrificial point of view. So it just kind of, to me, I think to myself, like if we were to ask ourselves, can we make those same kinds of sacrifices now, right, in this generation? Our children will be the ones telling, right, when it's their turn, what they saw or didn't see. But I always say, if you know better, then you do better, right, in that sense. And so we want to honor their, presence, right, for those of us whose mothers are no longer here. And for the ones that are here, we still want to honor them because they did all that work. And like Maureen said, that's kind of why we're where we are today, right? In that sense, like they didn't give up on us or on our fathers, as it were, in that sense. Okay, so now that was first round robin style. The next part that we're going to go into, I know all of you have read our book, right, as per Sisterhood. So thank you for being such loyal friends. And if you remember in our book, we talked about the 4C's, right? Two of you have been here on the couch previously with your husbands, and you recognize that those 4C's are the things, they form the bulk of the kind of questions that we ask here on the couch, just to put guardrails around the conversation. And also because honestly to us, these are the 4 fundamental pillars, right, that surround a marriage and a relationship. And so I'm going to go around, right, again, and I'm going to ask questions on the 4C's. So what I can do is ask people what choice they would prefer. Which C would you prefer to have, so that I can ask you from that one, or it doesn't matter. I can just, you can take anyone. Can you take anyone?
Communication.
Okay, communication.
With regards to motherhood, right?
It's
just generally?
Yes. The 4C's, I'm going to then ask it in regards to motherhood and in regards to relationships. So Maureen, communication. Shola, have your own money. I'm going to give you money. And then I'll give Bolale. Bolale, which one do you want? Cradling or coupling, right? So cradling is parenting. Coupling. Okay.
And we can all talk about cradling.
Yes. I think every one of us has kind of fit into, the types of conversations we generally have right around this thing. Okay. So Maureen, communication. What have you found to be the key to communication for your own marriage and for your mothering, right? Because I think even though there are two different relationships, communication is still the bedrock of all interpersonal relationships. What have you found to be the key, right? If you have more than one key, you can tell us, but I want to know what's the mother load here. No pun intended.
I heard my mom say something, probably at one of the earliest weddings we attended together, or that I can remember, or that she says at weddings whenever they say, is there anyone here who has advice for the couple? And she says, impression without communication leads to depression. And so
write that down.
I mean, sorry?
I'm writing it down. I know.
Say it again for emphasis.
I know. Wow.
Impression without communication leads to depression.
Wow.
And I mean, I think people think or say that I talk a lot, or that I talk to a lot of people. And I think that we're not mind readers, so we need to talk. Like, I'm not going to know what you're thinking if you don't speak, if you don't talk. Obviously, there's non-verbal communication, and you can read the room and read, but we really need to talk. So I'm big on talking about things, and really I don't resolve issues, or issues aren't resolved with me if I haven't talked them through. That's just the way that I work. So I feel like the communication is important. And so, I mean, I suppose you're going to talk about children, like how does that affect the way that I mother? So maybe I'll leave that till the subsequent question. But essentially, we need to communicate. So, Odi and I need to be communicating to know what we are both thinking, or what our view is, what we like, what we don't like. Because otherwise, we assume, or we take things for granted, or we think we're on the same page when actually we're not on the same page. It's like you can't talk enough, I think. And sometimes that is interpreted as going on and on about something. But to me, it just means that we obviously haven't talked about it enough. If there is still so much to talk about, or there is still misunderstanding about it, then we haven't talked about it enough.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, because I feel like that's the bane of my work. The follow-up to say, Maureen, when you say we haven't communicated enough, right? Is it enough for you or for the spouse? You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to think about what that enough means.
That's a good question.
Right? In that sense, yeah.
What's the definition of enough?
So I think the enough is that do I feel that what I'm trying to say is what you are saying, is what you are understanding or receiving.
Okay. How do you assure that? We're getting now to that motherload. How do you assure that? What is the thing that would tell you that has happened?
So I think if I'm saying, what am I saying? Or what do you think I'm saying? What do you think I'm trying to say? And then the other person says what they think I'm trying to say. And then I can either say that, yes, I feel now that you've got what I've said. Sure. Now, obviously, in that time, they might say what I feel they should be saying, but then their actions subsequently may not say actions may not say the words. And then we have to go back to, well, to me, these actions don't match the words that you said or the meaning that you got from what I was trying to say the other time or whatever. Obviously, it's not an exact science and no one's perfect, and we're all growing from one degree of glory to another. But I feel like we need to acknowledge, right, this action doesn't match what I said, so I need to change something.
So again, I mean, I think this is...
And it should go two ways.
Yes.
It should go two ways. Communication is a two-way street.
My job as an interviewer, because what I'm hearing from you is frequency, and then the reflection of, do you understand what I'm saying? Because they normally say in communication that there's what you say, what the other person heard, what they think you said, and what you think they understand, right? Like they're like layers to it, just in speaking to another person, because you may think you said one thing, they don't think that, they think that's what they heard, and then you have to kind of say, oh, what you're thinking is not what I said, right? So there's that back and forth. And so I think that question of someone saying, what did I say, what am I saying, right? Hearing someone ask that can be like, what? It's kind of like, a bit wow, okay. But it's important to clarify that people are hearing what you are saying, and you're not just walking away thinking they heard
communicated.
Yes, and then they didn't hear you at all, or they didn't understand, or they completely misunderstood what you were saying. But I'm still going to leave you with that question of just thinking about, when is enough, because there are two people involved now, right? So we kind of have to think about, I want to make sure I'm not overwhelming them, because I don't know if there's research that has shown that men are easily flooded, right? In terms of, if you bring too much at them, you're laughing, that they get flooded. So you kind of have to know, right? When do you okay, let me just be quiet, as they say for now. Yeah, laughing, Mary, like you don't believe it or you don't practice it.
I'm laughing because I'm surprised that there is research. Like I could tell you, I'm sure we all could say, but I suppose we live in the evidence-based medicine world or whatever. But anyone who's communicated with a male on a regular basis knows that generally they get flooded. So I'm just like, okay, so now they've actually found figures or whatever.
Yeah, you're
experiential.
This very experiential knowledge. The heart rate, everything goes up. It's just like, this woman, you're trying to finish me right now. It's a fight or flight situation.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway.
Okay. Anyway. So next question. This will be for Shola. Okay. You've already given us a little bit, right? And this has to do with money. But the question is, what's your money psychology or philosophy as it relates to a relationship, right? So, the Bible, all of us are Christ followers, for those who are listening. The Bible tells us that when a man and a woman are joined together, the two have become one, or, the two shall become one, and what God has joined together, let no one put asunder. And so my question to you is, I think about this, I'm saying that kind of implies a physical coupling, right? But it doesn't, the Bible is kind of silent, or it's not talking about material possessions, right? In that sense. And so we have that, then we have culture, right? You have different cultures where there are certain cultures where it's just really, really, it's not mandatory, but women own their own property, right? They own their own things, they own houses, they own this. And then you have other cultures that are like, whoa, how can a woman own that? That's what will make the woman leave her husband and all that. Different beliefs around this. But my question to you is, what's your view on this, right? That's one thing. And how does it apply to your relationship, right? Because that we know your husband, so just don't be saying anything randomly here.
So that's the great. I love that question. I love talking about money. So money philosophy. Now, I don't know that there's a name for the money philosophy that we have or whatever, but I think that I was fortunate enough that when we were dating, we
Uh-huh.
talked about these important things.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough because we were students and living in the same hall of residence. I witnessed firsthand how he spent money, and things of that nature. So I was able to have a picture of the kind of person he was as far as money was concerned. So you know how you say people, is somebody a spender or are they a saver? I think both of us, in terms of our spending versus saving habits, we're honestly very much in the middle there. Neither of us is super frugal, and neither of us just fritters money away. So that helps. It also helps that, from the get-go, when it came to talking about, marriage and who pays what and this and that, it was pretty clear that I expected to be provided for. I was not going to. So now I'm going to bring a bit of balance to that whole independent, have your own money thing. I have seen women, slowly but surely become the man of the house, because when it's time for them to step back and let their husbands, who are, by the way, genetically wired to provide whatever controversy this is going to bring, good. But again, men, the thing that providing is their thing, okay? So I saw growing up where women slowly almost became the man from just taking over more and more and more and more. And I was determined that this was not going to happen to me. And one of the things I did early on in our relationship, I read this book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And it gave me a bit of insight into how to handle that whole being able to, yes, have your own money, but take a step back and be able to say, it's a little face back there, be able to say, okay, I'm not going to take this over and take that over. And I remember somebody gave a speech on our wedding day saying, you're a man, pay your bills. And we've never had really, it's just been a case of the responsibility for the house, the cars, the phones, the this and that is all his. And yes, I have my own money, but it doesn't mean I don't contribute. So how we've set it up in our relationship is that in our house, everybody has responsibilities. We have multiple this whole joint account versus single account. I'm tired of that question. We have multiple joint and separate accounts. I don't even know how many accounts we have. And I tell people this, if you're talking about, I have one joint account and should we have separate accounts? You're not ready for marriage and you're not ready for wealth. Because to build wealth, you need to have multiple things that you're doing, that your hands are into. So you have a brokerage account for this, you have one account for that. We have accounts that we manage. He has an account that he manages for our kids. I have another account that I manage for our kids. So it can get pretty complicated. But if your philosophies are similar and are matched, and you have your responsibilities, we feel that works for us. So in the house, there's certain things he takes care of, and I'm not asking where he's getting the money from. There's certain things I take care of, and he's not asking me where I got the money from. It's like, this thing is taken care of. So once he comes in, there's food. Where the food came from, whether it came from the air or whatever, the food is my responsibility. The house is clean. Whether you cleaned it yourself or you hired 20 maids.
It's clean.
It's clean. I pick up my phone to use it. I don't ask how much the phone bill was or whatever. All I know is that I have a phone to use. I get in my car and I drive it. I'm not asking about car note, this and that. So because we have responsibilities that are very clear, I think for us, that worked for us. It worked for us. It might not work for everybody. Some people do 50-50. I'm like, God forbid, that's not me.
Question for you.
No.
What if the other party is not responsible, right? You're kind of, so what if the other party is not responsible, right? What if they said they will do this, like we're talking about communication now, and then over and over, you're seeing that they're not doing it. This is the conversation that a lot of women keep having. Like you say, oh, I'm going to leave this with somebody. And then you find a note that comes into the house. The car bills were not paid.
Not paid.
This was not paid. That was not paid. It happens. This is not like, stories. And so then you start to have conversation about money, and then trust comes in, because I trusted you to take care of the things that you said were your own responsibility, and then you didn't do it, and we live in a country where you can't say, I'm going to leave this house rent,
No.
You're gonna find yourself out on the streets, you and your children, where you're trying to prove something to somebody.
Oh, no.
So I mean, there's that other part of it is what I'm trying to say. Like, I
Yes.
guess, like you said, I think you started by saying you're fortunate, which is the thing, right? And I think that's sometimes where some people are like, you all that are fortunate like this don't get the plight of people who have had to walk through this thing. And I always say money is such a, it's a defense. And so because of that, if it's not there, the walls are broken, right? For you as the person who, like you said, needs to be provided for based on just your relationship, right? In to the man, like you said, if the person is providing and money is the defense, if they don't do that, then you are left defenseless, right? As a woman.
Yes.
And so the question then becomes, how do you build up your own defenses, even as you are kind of, still walking through a relationship, right? I mean, I get you saying we have all these accounts, but I think, like you said, everyone has an eye, right? You kind of know who has what, who's doing what, but you're not holding a person responsible to you. So I think there are two sides where, as a woman, you don't let go of that. You don't say, oh, it's all in my husband's care. I'm not going to worry about that. But then on the other side is you don't become a man, right? In that sense, like there's no, you don't become a man, because if you do, for many of them, they'll leave you. So you're basically doing the work of two people, right? And getting older by the day. They are getting younger. So
I've actually had the opportunity, my husband and I, because for many years we counseled couples, and some people found themselves in this kind of situation. So I always say, first of all, back to what my friend Maureen was saying, is that communication is key. You have to keep talking about these things, and you can't talk enough about a problem that's still ongoing. And and I'm not trying to hold myself up as the bastion of the perfect marriage. Believe me, we have our issues. We have our issues.
Okay.
Many of them, which some of you have probably even heard, right?
Yeah.
But but the thing is that in the case, if something is going to be like, I don't know if we remember the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which at the lowest rung, we have things like food, clothing, shelter. If you're at risk of if you're at the risk of losing any of those things, whoever is the more responsible party just has to take action, because there's a balance to everything, and it's not a one size fits all. Let's say somebody's always leaving their shoes on the carpet, and what are you doing? Like, whatever, when you're ready, you pick your shoes. But when it comes to like a bill that has to be paid, there should be conversations around, okay, if I'm going to be paying these bills, what load are you going to be able to take off of me? What can you do in return, so that the burden of everything doesn't eventually just fall on one person. There are families where one party is the more fiscally responsible one, and I have friends who they just literally just give their paycheck to their wives, like, yeah, take it, give me an allowance. And so like, take your money, give me an allowance, you pay all the So that's why I said talking about responsibilities. But again, too, that gentleman, it doesn't mean he's going to just do nothing. Marriage is a partnership. Marriage is a team. So everybody has to fit in according to the strengths that they have. So if somebody's always forgetting to pay bills, that should not be the person paying the bills. Just a practical standpoint.
I love it. I mean, we have that practical standpoint, but we have the cultural thing that is so ingrained in us, right? Like certain things the men have to do and all that. But I'm glad we're having this conversation because people are hearing it, right? We're not ascribing anything to gender here. It's basically saying who's the more fiscally responsible one. Let them have it, and then let everyone be aware of what is going on. Yes.
Can I say something? So I think that, as Shola said, the fact that when you say let the more fiscally
responsible
person pay the bill, that is in talking about the practical paying the bill. That is not to say they are the ones going to go and work for the money that is going to be used to pay the bill. Now, it may be that the man is out of work for a season, or the woman is out of work for a season, or whatever. That is why there is communication. Like, the communication is just endless, because seasons change, times change, and nothing is the same. The only constant thing in life is change. So if, as long as, you know, I am going to actually set up the direct debit, or I am going to actually pay this bill in terms of putting the details in the online website. But that's not to say I am the only one going to bring the money that is going to pay the bill.
Exactly.
You know, and as you said, Shola, that also if I am going to be responsible for paying the bills, as in entering the digits and doing the math, what are you then going to take? Because it takes two, and people get burnt out when one person is doing 80%,
it's
90%,
abuse. It becomes
95%.
And
one person thinks, oh, because I earn the more, the larger amount of money, my job here is done. No. So there does need to be a balance, and there needs to be the communication about it. And I think these conversations are difficult, but they need to be had to achieve something. There's no point having a difficult conversation if you're not going to have action plans or things that we're going to do or change. Then it's just a difficult conversation that's not pleasant for everyone, and we haven't done anything about it. Why do people that have difficult conversations?
And then there's the avoidance of it the next time, right? Because it's a difficult
conversation. So this is it. So we need to get to an agreement or an action point. Okay, this is bad. This is difficult. This is awkward. This is awful. It needs to be done. What is our conclusion from it? So we'll know
what is the game plan
from this difficult conversation. Otherwise, you're going to need to have the difficult conversation again.
Yeah, game plan. I mean, so again, speaking of game plan, right, than the conversation, some issues and what, relationship researcher, again, this researcher thing, John Gottman says are perennial issues. Some people just, it's almost like they freeze when it comes to money. Like they just, you know what I mean? So you kind of need to have that conversation often, not like repeatedly, but after the action plan, you find that maybe 6 months down the line, there becomes some sort of lag. You kind of have to come in again and say, hey,
evaluate.
We talked about exactly the action plan the last time. Let's make sure we're sticking to it, kind of thing. So so I got 2 things: difficult conversations, fiscal responsibility, pitching in terms of, everyone contributing their quota. And then making sure that things are done. Because if no one does it, I always say no one's going to come and do it. Like if you get an angel coming to do it in the night, then maybe that angel should be the one living in the house, right? In that sense. So now I'm going to move to the third question, the third C, and that is coupling or sex, right? And I'm going to